Desde el edificio más importante de prensa, el Cuarto Poder, The National Press Building en Washington, D.C., alegrando y encendiendo tus tardes, llega Pedro Biaggi Encendío en la Red Hispana.
Hola, yo soy Pedro Biaggi Encendío y hoy bendecido porque les traigo en exclusiva una entrevista con Marianne Williamson. ¿Quién es Marianne Williamson? Una de las candidatas demócratas en las primarias para la presidencia de los Estados Unidos en las elecciones que vienen 2020. Ella llegó a los estudios de la Red Hispana y nos habló de manera exclusiva y para ti. Veamos. Hi, Marianne. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I'm honored that you're here with us at la Red Hispana.
Well, I'm honored to be here, so thank you.
So your quote of your campaign is, "Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure." Can you tell me something about that?
Well, that line comes from a book I wrote called A Return to Love. And that book, the subtitle is Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. So this concept that we are more afraid of our light than of our darkness is a concept that comes from the Course in Miracles, because we are trained by the voices in the world that then become voices in our head to think that we are powerless when in fact we are powerful. And I think that particularly applies to our democracy, because we're not behaving collectively with the power of citizenship that we actually have. And when citizens forget that the power is invested in us, then we become easy to fool. We become easy to distract, and forces that would disempower us have an easier way with us than they should.
Been a follower of yours since 1989, when my friend Edith Chacon, a Puerto Rican superstar, told me that I needed to bring some love into my heart, that I needed to stop gossiping, that I needed to be nicer. You know, somebody tells you that, you're like, what? Really? And she said, but I have a book for you, and it's called A Return to Love. And I was like, really? Like, really? And I got the first page, and I started to read it, and I was like, really? Like, you're going to tell me that I'm going to apply love to hate, and I'm going to apply love to deception, and love to betrayal, and love to, you know, and it was a breakthrough for me in my life. Recently, when you went to do the town hall with CNN, and as I have followed you for many years, because I've been to the town hall in New York to watch you, in a monthly basis when you come there. I've been to LA to see you at the Wilshire where you present yourself on Monday nights. I watched the CNN town hall, and I was nervous for you, because since I am a follower and an admirer of yours, I was like, oh my God, is she going to be able to be a politician? Is she going to be able to answer all those tough questions that they ask that intimidate people? Because she's so nice and so spiritual and so, you know, and you were really fierce.
That's so funny that you say that, because I have asked all my friends, and you're the first person who is honest, because I have to ask all my friends. I said, were you nervous? Were you nervous before I went on? They went, oh no, I wasn't nervous. And I thought, there's no way you weren't nervous. There was no way you weren't thinking, oh my God, I hope she doesn't ruin her life.
We were nervous for you.
I would think so.
Out of the belief and the faith that we have for what you bring to my life, to our lives. So I was hoping that, and you have it. You have it going on big time. You have an answer to everything. You can go in depth. You have the history behind it. You're so smart.
Well, thank you.
Now, as a Latino man, and as a person that would like my people to know who you are, I want to translate all this to my community and to the people that follow me and the people that have the same kind of beliefs that I have, because what you bring into my life is powerful. It's really life-changing. You have changed my life. So how could you not change the life of this country? And they talk about making America great again. How will you do that, Marianne?
Well, America can't be great if America's not good. And there are principles of goodness, just how we relate to other people. All the great values of mercy and compassion and integrity and character and forgiveness and right relationship that prevail within our individual lives. Like you said, when you applied love, your life transformed. Well, all that a nation is a group of individuals. So the same psychological and emotional principles that prevail within the life of one person prevail within the life of a nation. So what has happened to America is not that the American people in our personal lives don't ask ourselves what it means to be good and what it means to treat other people well. I think we do. I think we're good and decent people. But we have stopped asking those questions about about tax policy, about education, about how we treat our children, about how we treat other countries. Look at what's happening on the border. This is not how you treat people. Separating children from their parents, last thing I heard, that's called kidnapping. So you have to ask yourself what is good, not just in terms of your own individual life, but in terms of the nation as well. That is the role of the citizen. And when the citizen is not alert, and the citizenry does not make our consciousness and our morals and our conscience and our sense of right and wrong felt by our elected representatives, then our elected representatives too often become just handmaidens to an economic order that really is not considering right and wrong.
Well, economic order. Imagine that we are applying the perspective of applying tariffs to the Mexican to Mexico based on the immigration situation. How does that make any sense to you?
It makes no sense. I don't believe, whether it has to do with tariffs. I'm not saying the tariffs never have a place, but I certainly don't agree with them in Mexico. With Mexico, the whole idea of tariffs and sanctions, it's this idea that if you punish people enough, that you'll get what you need, and that's not how life works. I mean, when you said that someone said to you, you need to stop being so mean. Yeah. And when you started becoming more loving is when the transformation occurred.
Yes, absolutely.
Life supports you when you support life.
Yes.
When we extend love. And, there are those who would seek for their own purposes to make that sound silly, to make that sound like you were when you first opened the book. You said, oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
The first page, I was like, I don't think I'm going to finish this book. Because
it
sounds too good to be true.
But when you think about the history of our country is based on the idea that all people are created equal, that God gave all people inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and governments are instituted to support those rights. Those are values. Those are not just political principles. They are the moral and spiritual and philosophical values that underlie our politics. And the most patriotic thing in the world is to, in our own time, in our own generation, make sure that this country stands on those values and that they don't just become empty words.
We are a minority. The Latino community is a minority. You're a woman, and you say you're a Jewish woman. You're a Jewish woman, and I say that with all the respect. I don't know if that when you say that people get disrespected, but no, right?
Yeah.
You're a Jewish woman. We're a minority. Our people, we have the values that we have. It's very conservative in one way, and we misunderstand being conservative with being Republican or being a Democrat, and the definition to that when it comes to the immigration topic. We've been through so much. We have been so hurt. We are so humiliated. We are so pointed, disrespected, rejected. What we get is pure hate because I cannot translate it into any other word, and I know about love. What is your take on immigration? What will you tell us? What will you tell my people that you could do different for us because we are desperate?
All four of my grandparents came through Ellis Island. They were escaping the pogroms, the murderous pogroms against Jews in Russia at that time. America has been and must continue to be the place where people can look to find hope, not to find demonization, not to find hatred, not to find prejudice. The grand American tradition of immigration is that this is where people could come to escape such things, because that's a form of emotional oppression. That's a form of psychological oppression. So the fact that you or any group of people, determined by your culture, determined by your ethnicity, determined by your race, determined by your religion, determined by your sexuality, determined by anything other than your humanity, should make you feel unwelcome in the United States is a sign that the United States itself has swerved from the meaning of what it means to be an American. And all of us must participate. You must participate. I must participate. Everyone must participate in standing firm for that value of inclusion at a time when not only principles of exclusion, but actual demagoguery and demonization of those who do not fit in a particular category of white, of Christian, or of whatever it is. At such a time as this, we must stand firm. We must do this for the sake, in honor of our grandparents and for the sake of our great-grandchildren.
We had a crisis. This is a quote you said. We had a crisis of adulthood in our society. Too many men have acted like boys and too many women have acted like girls. With your perspective with men being boys Who in politics would you consider a running mate, or would you consider also a woman? And I know you cannot disclose who you choose, but would you choose a woman?
You know, it's an interesting question because the name that I have in my mind when I think of who I think would be great does happen to be a woman.
Oh.
And I think about it because, as I said to a friend the other day, I think America is ready to elect a woman president. But is America ready to elect an all-woman both president and vice president being women? I don't know.
Awesome?
Well, somebody said to me, well, it's been 2 men for all these years. Why shouldn't it be 2 women? I don't know. I have a long way to go before I'm put in a position of needing to choose a running mate. But as my mother would say, your mouth to God's ears.
Thank you. The LGBT community, the transgender people, as I would say, as being a part of that community, the army, the armed forces, what have been done and what has been said to them, the traumatization that they are going through right now.
The idea that somebody who wants to be in the military, has been in the military, by definition, if you're in the U.S. military, that means that you are willing to lay down your life for this country. And the idea that anyone who has made such a commitment and is willing to make such a sacrifice would be cast out and rejected rather than embraced is horrifying. And once again, it's a transgression against the moral values of inclusion that make this country great.
You have so much work to do, Marianne.
I know. There's a lot to do in 4 years, so we're going to have to hurry up.
Please do. Okay, so a Green New Deal.
Green New Deal means a program by which there will be massive infrastructure repair, a regreening of our economy, the creation of jobs, a federal jobs guarantee. People will be put to work doing all these things that have to do with sustainability in our energy, sustainability in our transportation, retrofitting buildings, creating things along a green economy. What's not to love?
Well, a lot of people don't love her.
Well,
Alejandra Ocasio, what do you think about her?
Right. I think she's wonderful.
You do?
And of course I do. And the whole point here, of course, is that the obstruction by the fossil fuel companies against, when you look at Jimmy Carter in the 1970s, he was president from 1976 to 1980. He had solar panels up on top of the White House, and he talked about going solar then. If we had moved from a fossil fuel economy to a green economy, starting back when Jimmy Carter wanted to, none of this climate crisis would be happening today. But because of the billions of dollars made as short-term profits for the fossil fuel companies, the obstruction has been intense. The first thing that Ronald Reagan did when he became president was to take the solar panels off the top of the White House. Now we are in an emergency situation. And so the idea for me is, as president, would be a world-class environmental scientist who is head of the EPA. The EPA should be a magnet for world-class environmental experts, sustainability experts, and so forth. Fossil fuel company executives such as we have now. The head of the EPA is an ex-chemical company exec. Before him, an ex-oil company executive. We don't have a covert corporate takeover of the U.S. government. We have a very overt corporate takeover of the U.S. government. And so when I'm president, that stops.
Do you think we are undereducated when it comes to global warming?
I think that we have actually reached a critical mass now. I believe, and there are many, many people who deserve a lot of credit. People who've been working on this for years. People who first started Earth Day years ago. Al Gore, like all the other Al Gores of the world. No, I believe the American people are ready. The issue is leadership. The issue is for the real will of the people to be expressed. When I was growing up, environmentalism was not a left versus right issue. Richard Nixon, who established the Environmental Protection Agency, was a Republican. This should not be a partisan issue that we want our grandchildren to be able to breathe.
Exactly. When I grew up, where I grew up and where I come from, education wasn't really like that big because it was about going to work. My mother had a 10th grade education, and I almost did the same, except that later on I had to rejoin the forces of education because I realized that I needed freedom in my life. The freedom comes with the degrees that you have to have today in order to pass through those doors. What is your plan on education? How could you change what we have going on? And I know your family is really, really seriously into the education. What will you do?
I think that free college at public colleges and universities, I think every American should be able to have every bit the education that they need in order to self-actualize. It should not only be free at public colleges and universities, but it should also be an amazing array of technical schools. Every dollar that we use to invest in the ability of people to live their dreams, to actualize themselves, to become everything that they can be, so that the creative juices from deep within us can be expressed, is a dollar that we are putting into our economy. The economic system that we have now does not create an abundant economic future. If you want an abundant economic future 10 years from now, we would do much more to help our 10-year-olds today. We are the only advanced democracy that bases our educational funding primarily on property taxes. When I'm president, there will be a massive realignment of investment in the direction of children 10 years old and younger. This is why I want a United States Department of Children and Youth. Everything happens in the first 8 years. Every single school, if you want to see the magnificence of this country, that which would fuel us for 100 years, that which would be the entrepreneurial spirit that would carry us forward, look in any kindergarten, any neighborhood in America. So I want every single school in America, starting in elementary school, to be a palace of learning, a palace of culture, a palace of the arts. And when we stop giving so much of our money away to a very, very tiny proportion of Americans, we will have the money to be able to do that, and it will create greater abundance for everyone.
Do you believe in free tuition?
Public colleges and universities, absolutely.
Absolutely. And how would we pay our teachers, and how would we pay the mortgages of the...
What we need to do is we need to repeal the 2017 tax cut.
Yes.
Which was a $2 trillion tax cut. It gave 83 cents of every dollar to the very top richest individuals and corporations. I would put back in the middle class tax cut. I would stop the corporate subsidies to things such as $26 billion given to the fossil fuel companies alone. We can look at our military budget and look at the ways that you say to the military, what do you need for us to be the most powerful military in the world? And I assure you that what they say they need is much less than what we spend, because we spend so much money on our military that has less to do with security and more to do with short-term profit maximization for defense contractors. Our government should also be able to negotiate with Big Pharma, which would so reduce our healthcare costs. So there is so much money that this country can have and will have when we stop giving it away. Where do you get it? You get it from the small group of people who have been given it for the last 40 years for no reason whatsoever. By the way, and that would include a 3% tax on billionaires and a 2% tax on people who have over $500 million in the bank. Pay up, guys. Come on.
Off the air, I said to her, you have 3 minds, 3 brains. You have, please don't look at my papers, because I know that you can see through the wall. So, no, my love for you. I really admire you, and I really love you. And I am going to be the biggest supporter of your campaign.
Thank you. You're going to come to Nevada with me?
I'm going to go anywhere you go.
Okay, and that's what I said to my cousin Lori, too. I need you guys. Come to Nevada with me.
I am already with you all the way through.
Great. We'll have a blast.
Medicare for all.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want any American to even have to think about it. There is so much tension, so much economic anxiety that millions and millions of Americans live with. What will happen if I get sick? What will happen if one of my children gets sick? This caps people's dreams. Nobody can create. Nobody can live our best life when we're constantly wondering what will happen if we get sick. How are we going to pay for our kids to go to college? How am I going to pay off these college loans? I want this anxiety removed so that people can soar. That's where money comes from. Money comes from people being able to live our dreams.
Why is America depressed?
Why are we depressed? Well, if you have to live, when you look at millions, well, I think you were saying that rhetorically. When you think of the millions and millions of people who live on a daily basis with this chronic anxiety, but if you look at, for instance, the highest at-risk group of young people for suicide, at risk for suicide, you know what it is? Girls in well-to-do homes.
Yes.
So the depression in our society is not only economic. It has to do with a crisis of meaning.
Yes.
And that crisis of meaning is economic in that we have made money more important than love. And this, among other things, depresses us economically. It's just not the way to live your life, and it's not the way to run your country.
My friend Lisette's daughter was in the room next door in Oakland, in the Oakland Park in Florida, in the shooting. And we talk about gun control and what could we do and how, the many things we should change about it. But where is the mental health to the people around the victims? Parents are committing suicide. All the kids are committing suicide. They feel guilty that they stay alive. What could you do? You are such a powerful force when it comes to the mind. The word that you have to say, so life-changing. What can we do for those victims that today, can we talk about gun control? That's a question. But what about the victims, the people around the victims? What can we do for them?
When we look at situations like the crisis at the border,
yes,
we look at the situation like these mass school shootings. They are screaming emergencies, but we also have silent emergencies. We have millions of American children who, even though they have not necessarily been in proximity to a mass shooting, are in proximity to shootings every single day of their lives because they live in America's domestic war zones. We have such an underbelly of chronically traumatized children.
Yes.
That's why I want a Department of Children and Youth. That's why I want a massive reinvestment. We have elementary school children in this country who are on suicide watch. We have children who, because of things that you just said, but because of the violence in their families and their neighborhoods and so forth, are chronically traumatized before they even go to preschool. The point, and the reason I'm running for president, is that the political establishment does nothing but to normalize the despair of these children. These things and everything that you're mentioning should be seen as a national emergency.
Yes.
They are dealt with when we create the situations of repair. We have in this country the social workers we need. We have the educators we need. We have the experts on early childhood education. We have the people who have spent their entire professional careers on knowing how to psychologically and emotionally, through wraparound services, through trauma-informed education, through restorative justice, through conflict resolution, through mindfulness training. We have the people who would know what to do. And this is true not only in helping our children, it's true in fixing the environmental crisis, and it has to do with building peace. But this is not where we put our money. That's how corrupt our situation is in this country. It's because our government serves more the short-term profit maximization for huge corporate entities than it does to support us, the people. And all of the children that you're mentioning, it's very significant that we remember that the children to whom you refer are full-on citizens of the United States of America.
Yes.
And our Declaration of Independence says that they have inalienable rights to life and to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. You know what? Even if they're not citizens of the United States of America. Because the Declaration doesn't say just citizens. It says all men.
Right.
All men. And so everything can be traced back to this moral malfunction, to the spiritual malfunction by which we are doing. We have reverted to an aristocratic system where we have a government and an economic system that serves a tiny few at the expense of the very many.
I used to think about that the Constitution, our Constitution, was such a beautiful, miraculously well put together piece of information for us to live by, kind of like a Bible, for the principles. And what we live today is so opposite of that. What we hear today is so opposite of that. The messages that we get from all over the place are so opposite of that. The level of addiction that we have in our country, the opioid situation, the fact that the doctors have the privilege to be able to write prescriptions at will, doesn't this make them like sort of drug dealers? I mean,
they are. These are legalized drug dealers. And the good news here is that finally, the situation is beginning to change. All 50 states are bringing indictments against Purdue Pharmaceuticals. The Sackler family is being finally called to account. Some pharmaceutical executives are actually being put in prison. So finally, after many tens of thousands of people have died, they are being called to account. And you're absolutely correct. These are America's most dangerous drug dealers. But at the same time, as long, you can treat drug addiction over here. But if you are over there bringing up generations of people whose despair is so great that the pain is such that they just want out of here, we will always have a problem.
Have you moved to Iowa yet?
I've moved to Iowa, but when you're running for president, you live out of a suitcase. You live, you don't live anywhere.
You live everywhere.
You live everywhere for a while.
A mother from Iowa, she lost her son to opioid addiction. The medication was prescribed by a doctor,
yes,
not a drug dealer
yes,
in the streets. He got it legally at a local pharmacy. and it was paid for by an insurance company. He became an addict. He overdosed with a legal prescription.
Well, the first thing I want to say, just as a woman, as a mother, as a human being, is how sorry I am. And if that woman is listening, I hope she can feel the love and the condolences of yourself, of myself, of everybody who is listening. It is criminal. It is horrifying. I call it in my book, I wrote a book about this called Tears to Triumph. I call it the psychopharmacological, psychotherapeutic industrial complex. And it's one of the many ways in which billions of dollars are made, turning human suffering into a profit center.
I love it. I'm going to get a dictionary after I get this interview done to transcribe a lot of this stuff, because I want everybody to understand everything that you're saying. It is as important. To me, it's an emotional moment, and I'm very excited. I'm very happy to go through this. But more important for me is that my people, my listeners, my Latino community gets your message. Your message is unique, and it's not like any other candidate I have ever heard in my life.
Thank you.
I have always been very careful, and I have a career where you have to be really partial and really neutral and really, I can't do that with you.
It's too late in the game. We all have to step up our courage quotient right now.
Yes. So if you could meet with a spiritual leader, if you could have lunch, breakfast, or dinner.
Living, or does...
Well, a spiritual leader.
Jesus.
I told you. I love it. I said to my friend yesterday, my Gandhi is coming to see me.
That was very, very sweet. That was very, very sweet.
And, you know, it was 1989 when I got your book.
Well, it would have to be 1992 was when it first came out.
Well,
but maybe you got my cassette tapes.
Well, I don't know what happened in 1989, but she was talking to me about you then, in 1989.
Everybody had those little cassette tapes. I had those little cassette tapes.
And then the book came out. And like I told you before, off the air, I got the book at least 15, 17 times that I can remember that I purchased it, and I had to give it away because there are many situations in life that I run into people that I really love. And anybody that's close to me knows about a return to love, because it's part of who I am. It's part of what I preach or what I live on, and the principle that I live by. The Course of Miracles is a different story. I only got the references through the book and through and through the readings. But my comadre, the mother of my godchildren, is my guru, my teacher of A Course of Miracles. She gave me the book, and she took the time, like a kid that I am. She took the time to go step by step in the book.
So sweet.
It took us a really long time, but it was the most important moment of my transformation in life, because understanding the power of love but not understanding the power of miracles is a very different situation. I would like to put your headphones on, please, because I have her on the line, and she is a very important lady in life, in my life, and she knows every important famous person in the world. And she told me last night, I would never ask anybody for an autograph, but I want Marianne's autograph.
Oh, that
and
is
I
so
said,
sweet.
more than an autograph, why don't you tell her something? And she's on the line right now. Adriana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an immense privilege. And thank you so much, Marianne, for coming to Pedro's program.
Thank you.
Honestly, I thank you as well for doing everything that you've done in your life and everything that you've shared with so many people. You've touched so many lives. And I can speak for Pedro, I can speak for myself, the transformation that occurs when we come to hear the name Marianne Williamson. And when we're either gifted a book or we hear one of your speeches, it's so powerful. And so I'm overjoyed to hear your voice and to connect with you, because this is really a privilege.
Well, thank you.
We have to go on campaign with her, Adriana. We're taking off. Where are we going?
Well, I could really use you in Nevada.
Adriana, you have to get the kids together. We're leaving. We're going on tour.
Okay.
You know,
I'll
because
do what I have to do.
Well, thank you, because really that's what it is now. People who hate with conviction and have turned their hate into political force. We must now love with conviction and turn our love into political force. I'm so grateful when people like yourself, Ariana, or you, Pedro, say what my books have done for you, which means so much to me. And of course, I'm just giving a book report on the Course in Miracles. So the spirit that has transformed your life has transformed mine. What I feel now, and really why I'm running for president, is okay, guys, now let's do this for the country. Now let's do this for the world, because blessings are not meant for us alone. We're to share our blessings. And we have all three of us have been blessed by this extraordinary information and the power of that information when it's applied in practical ways. Think what can happen if all the people who have felt the power of love in their lives now collectively resonate it with such an extent that we are ready to use it to heal this country and to heal this world.
Absolutely. I agree. I couldn't agree more. I believe that there is an enormous group of people that are in pain and shouting for answers, yet the world can't hear them because they feel alone. And that loneliness is part of the fact that they don't feel loved. And I believe that instead of having more weapons available to us, we only need one, and we don't have to purchase it. And it doesn't have to be an illegal weapon. It's available to us because it's our birthright, and it's called love. And that is what you teach us in A Return to Love. And I can say that you gifted me another book in 2016 when I was going through a transformative period in my life, and that was Tears to Triumph. And there's so much in that book that I applied because we all go through that dark night of the soul, but some of us don't understand what it is when we're going through it. And to have a tool like that, along with all the other books, Illuminata, which was the first book that I received with your name on it as a gift, there are just so many wonderful messages in there, and all we need is love. And as simple as that might sound, as cliche as it might sound to many that are listening, it is the truth. And that is the only way we're going to save this planet, and we're going to save ourselves.
My new book is called A Politics of Love, Handbook for a New American Revolution, which is important because a lot of people say, but how do you apply this to politics? And you apply it in the same way you apply it to your own individual life. It's not loving when there's all this racial disparity in our criminal sentencing. It's not loving the way we're treating these children at the border. It's not loving that so much of our foreign policy is, when you see something like for $350 billion in an arms sale to Saudi Arabia, we are willing to give aerial support to a genocidal war in Yemen. This is a moral malfunction. Where is the love? So you can say that love doesn't apply to political issues, but it absolutely does.
I want to take advantage of this moment to ask a question because I have a person that I love very, very much, and I was talking to him about you. He's an atheist. My respect to everybody the way they are, as long as we love each other and we respect each other. And he's a very important person in my life. And I was telling, oh my God, Marianne Williamson, she's running for candidate. He's like, who is she? I said, well, this is who she is. This is. And then I said, and then I mentioned the word miracles. When I mentioned the word miracles, he said to me, oh no, if she believes in miracles, I'm not voting for her. Why do you throw him?
Well, he doesn't have to vote for me. I mean, it's a free society, and nobody owes it to me to vote for me.
No, but those that don't believe in what we believe, what do you offer them? In the spiritual aspect, how will you turn that around?
Well, whether or not you have seen what love can do,
yes,
it's irrelevant whether you are an atheist or not.
Yes.
Some people say they believe in God and hate in the name of God. I mean, before the 9/11 hijackers killed people, they said God is great. So just saying you believe in God doesn't really mean that much. And if you are a loving person, you conspire with God, whether or not you believe in God. So we have a religiously pluralistic society. That's an important part of our freedom. Whether you believe in God, how you believe in God, or if you don't believe in God is not the point. The point is what kind of a person you are. So the word miracles doesn't work for your friend, or the word God doesn't work for your friend.
But it works for me.
But the point is that I bet love works for him.
Yes, it does.
He's a good person.
He is a loving human being.
Matters.
He even told me to take a shower with white flowers. I'm like, you're going to tell me to put flowers on me, and now you tell me you don't believe in.
I love that. I love it. You busted him right there. You outed him.
You see?
You outed him.
Adriana,
he's one of us. He just doesn't know it.
Absolutely. They just believe in a different way, and they have different
words
names to call
words.
Love.
It's experience that matters, not belief.
Love is a frequency, and that is what you emit when you speak and when you touch souls. And so the more of that we can spread, the better we are going to be as a society.
Hear, hear.
Adriana, I love you very much. It's been 30 years of a wonderful relationship. You have made me a real man by giving me your 2 children to be their godfather. And you have completed an equation in my innocence. And I appreciate it. And I know that for you and I, this moment is truly important because we are talking to our guru. We are talking to our Gandhi. And I'm sorry, that's the way it goes.
To your
and
sister.
I love her, my sister, my future president of the United States. And I am committing myself from here on not to listen to anybody else, but to you because my faith is blind for you.
Thank you very much, and I'm part of the campaign.
You have my permission to listen to other people, Pedro. Just vote for me, but listen to everybody.
I have no choice. I live in Washington. I have to listen to all this dummies talk, but we are with you.
Thank you,
Adriana. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Marianne, thank you so much for this moment.
Thank
I will
you
make
so
sure
much.
that this is delivered to the audience, to my audience, in all levels that I can.
Thank you.
Every which way. We will transcribe, we will transcript, we will do subtitles, we will do everything we can because it is imperative that my community, my people, I am from Puerto Rico, and you know that Puerto Rico suffers a lot. Puerto Rico's been through so much. We are still living under these fake roofs, and there's a lot of need and
Puerto
necessity.
Rico, statehood.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Freedom for Venezuela.
Absolutely. And what our sanctions have done to exacerbate an already horrifying situation have been terrible. Those certainly would not be there under a Williamson administration.
Looking forward to joining you in your campaign. I am yours. I love you. God bless you. And I know you're Jewish. I know that God's a different equation. Everything
Same
blesses
God.
you. Same
Same
God.
God.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.